Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It is Thursday, April 10th. Derek Van Riper, Eno Saris, Trevor May, all here with you. On this episode, we discuss the importance of arm angle. We lucked out. There are a couple studies Trevor found that actually explain some things that are happening here in the early weeks of the season. So I'm very glad we didn't talk about this topic last week because that information is going to add a lot to this conversation. We're going to take a look at MacKenzie Gore, who appears to be having a breakout here in 2025. His first three starts have been fantastic. We're going to name that dude coming up here in a little while. And of course, as we do each and every episode, we got some news to get to up top. If you haven't joined our Discord already, you can be a part of that community. Just hit the link in the show description. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button or just hit the like button at a force level that you're comfortable with, really. You don't have to smash it, but smashing the like button is preferred. Yeah, we're not responsible for any broken computers. Everyone always says it, smash the like button. Like, just click it. That works too. They all count.
I don't know how much people say that anymore, actually, to be honest, Eric. More of a meme. Just saying.
Oh, no. It's a meme now?
It's a meme.
I don't get out much. You know this. What do people say now?
They just say, like the stream or what
I always would have said if other people weren't saying smash.
Well,
good.
I'm not professionally behind, man. It's okay. It's fine.
I'm always behind.
You're doing your best.
That's the sad part. I am doing my best, and it's very, very sad output. Let's talk about Kyren Paris for a moment, though, before we get going. He's unstoppable. 2-homer game against the Rays. Angels still lost. But, hey, look, if the playoffs started today, and they don't, the Angels would be in the playoffs. So, they have that going for them on April 10th, which is nice. But Kyren Paris, we talked about him briefly early in the week, a visit to Teacher Man throughout the offseason, and maybe has changed his swing for the better. And I just feel like I'm left out. I didn't get in on the frenzy over the weekend. I didn't pick up Kyren Paris anywhere, and we're getting a lot of questions on Discord. Is this real? Is he a breakout guy that's going to stick and have an everyday role and obviously not continue at the pace he's on right now, but end up being one of those pop-up surprise players? Or is it more in the line of Kyle Lewis? I think that was the other comp that came up in Discord, a guy that comes up, gets red hot, and then just never quite plays at the same level that he did other than that one really nice stretch.
Well, we had a nice piece of input from our resident hitting coach in Germany, Dominic, which pointed out that Teacher Man, who Kyren Paris went to, he's a famous hitting coach that has worked with Aaron Judge. He is a terror to the internet and has been banned from almost every hitting forum and place imaginable. But he thinks he has this great idea that everyone should listen to. It really works with certain players, as Dominic pointed out, and he thinks that it really works with players that hit too many ground balls, and that there's something about the move that Teacher Man teaches, which is really, I think, about releasing the barrel. He talks about just an early move. I'm making this move. It's that hitter. It's like when you're dumping the barrel. He has really refined thoughts about that move. And if that move was incorrect for Kyren Paris before, this could be a breakout. If you look at his ground ball fly ball mix, it used to be 55 for Kyren Paris, and for ground balls, now it's 36. It used to be 36 for fly balls, now it's 55. So he's really changed something. He's changed his swing path. He's changed something mechanically, but he does have these inherent flaws that he had before, which is he has a high swing strike rate. He had, high teens swing strike rates before. He has a 17% swing strike rate now. I don't think this is going to fix his strikeout rate. So I still think he will have a poor average. He won't be hitting 440. Oh, this is really good analysis.
Great analysis.
But I mean, like, he could be like a 230 hitter with, I would say, let me give him the upper ends. Let's say he's a 230, 2020 guy. That is what I'm comfortable saying in terms of true talent.
A 230, 2020 guy who also draws some walks and gets on base at a decent clip is a heck of a player, though. Like, that's a good outcome overall for a guy.
Yeah, and to some extent, the Angels are just like, they're in the business of getting lucky. You know, they're not spending a lot on their player development, so they're just hoping that their guys are going to tread and drive line and to teacher man and whoever, and they're going to get some opportunity on this team, and they're going to come out of this, they hope, with 3 or 4 regulars that they can use going forward.
Those numbers are, by the way, that's like Taylor Ward area for them, and he's one of their 3 best players every year. So
Yeah, right.
they can get another Taylor Ward. I think, you know, if 2 or 3
Who
WAR
can play defense on the infield.
2 or 3 WAR out of a position player, that's a quality above average player that you want on your team. By the way, I just thrown out here, I saw Paris's last homer. It was off Mason Montgomery, 100 down and in, oppo. Like that, the swing looked sustainable at least. And you mentioned like swinging strikes and stuff. A lot of that might be approach, and you know, he is young and doesn't have a ton of experience, so maybe he cleans some of that stuff up. But like getting to that pitch and then hitting it where he did and getting it out of the park, that's just not easy to do. And you definitely saw. It's funny. I just turned on the game just to see what was going on because I hadn't watched those teams much, and he immediately hits it. And I also wanted to see Montgomery pitch,
Right.
and he. You know, he hit like, and I played against him when he was in when I was coming back in 23, and he was in Salt Lake. He was on that team with Joe Adell and, you know, everybody, and he didn't have that swing. He wasn't that player, so it did. But I remember looking and be like, wow, that was a little Aaron Judgy, and that now makes sense that he's teacher man disciple.
Well, there you go. That's the path Kyren Paris is on right now. Does some different things, though. And 4 for 4 is a base stealer, too, chipping in on that side as well. So a nice story so far for the Angels. I don't think the fast start is going to keep them in playoff contention all season. But if it does, we'll talk about it more at that time. Trevor, you were quick to point this one out yesterday in our production meeting. Jesse Chavez now has the record for the most stints with the same club.
Yes, he now has 6 stints with the Braves. He was helped. He's 5 of those are since 2020. Basically, he's played for them every single year since 2020 at some point. I believe he only started one of those 5 times with them, started the season in spring training. So, you know, he's been, I guess, just like they just love having him there. We're trying to figure out, you know, what is going on. I hope I get to talk to him someday and just be like, hey, what do you think it is? Like, what, you know, what's so comfortable? But he did. Do you guys know who because he was tied with another guy with 5 until recently when he got picked up back by them. Do you know who is the other guy he was tied with? I bet you don't.
How far back in history do you have to go?
It's pretty far back.
I was going to say TJ McFarland with the A's.
I don't even have a good guess. Yeah,
I know TJ McFarland has like 3 different stints with the A's, but it's not.
I think TJ's got like 3 with 2 different teams. I think he's got 3 with the Orioles too. But no, it's Bobo Newsom.
Bobo Newsom. I would not. Wasn't going to pull that one.
He went back to the Washington Senators 3 times. It says Minnesota Twins on his thing, but it's back when they were the Senators before they even went. So this was the 60s.
But you had some crazy stats about Chavez's like quality with the Braves. Like,
yeah,
what was it?
I got some quick ones for you if you want. Is so the tale of 2. I know these ones off the top of my head. Tale of 2 Jessies was a story I told the other day on my show, and shout out to a YouTube channel called Baseball Doesn't Exist. If you guys haven't seen this kid, he's great. He finds stuff like this all the time. And it was inspired by a video he did because I went and looked a little bit deeper into statistics. But in the last 5 years, in the 5 stints, Jesse's 2 wildly different people. When he's on the Braves and when he's on any other team, and he's been on 9 teams. So this is pretty glaring. He's thrown 1,130 innings total in his career. 230 of those are with the Braves. He has 6.7 career WAR. 3.7 of his WAR is with the Braves. In the last 5 years, even he's gotten 3 of that WAR. So with the Braves, so he's got like a negative 1.5 with everybody else. Like a 7 ERA on every other team. He's got a 2.57 with the Braves. Strikeout rates up. Strikeout percentage is up 8% with the Braves. His walk percentage is down 3%. His home run rate is like a third of what it is on the Braves versus the other teams. It's absolutely insane, the differences. And basically that's probably why the release happens, or he like takes his opt out in April and then ends up with the Braves, and they sign him immediately. It's like within hours he is signed by the Braves, and then as soon as someone struggles or get hurt, he's called up, and he got called right up. And guess what, guys? He's throwing well for the Braves again this year.
I feel like he must have bought a house in Atlanta or something.
He must. It must be he probably loves the pitching coach and the staff. That's the constant. But there is a bunch of random pictures on the internet. Like whenever he's saying like or finishing a game, where it's always Darno catching. It was always Darno. So like him and Darno were like yucking it up all the time, always smiling at each other. There's like more pictures of those two together than anyone else on his team. So I'm like, maybe you just really like Darno too, but Darno's not there anymore. So I hope that wasn't it, because I want to see him continue doing what he's doing.
It's a great random kind of Jason Starkian sort of thing that Jesse Chavez has that record. Do you guys ever see ridiculous records and then just want to break them yourself? Like any facet of life, you just see a thing, walk into a restaurant, I don't know, maybe they got a food challenge or something, literally anything where you're like, I'm going to break this stupid record. I had one time in my RotoWire days. I asked our CTO at the time, I said, what's the record for most player blurbs, player updates written in a day? And he queried the database and said, it's like 92 updates in one day written by one person. And I just said, I'm breaking that. And I sat down on a Friday. I worked extra for fun just to break this stupid record that no one cares about. Do you guys have any records like that?
Oh, I'm always fascinated by the eating ones. Whenever I'm in a place where they're like, this person is eating, I'm like, I could do that.
I feel like that's the low hanging fruit. I think that most people think food is the way. That just sounds. If you're wrong, you're miserable for a while.
That's right.
So I'm not interested. I know I can eat a lot, but I've run into too many people much smaller than me that can eat a lot more. So I'm not under any illusions. I eat a normal amount for a person my size. So that is not being wildly uncomfortable for like days is not something just full of pancakes or something. So it was more, I remember I had the Guinness Book of World Records, the 2000 one. It was like year 2000. So it was like the 50-year anniversary of it or 100-year anniversary of it. And I remember flipping through those and deciding which ones I thought I would be able to break someday. But they were all like athletic, like pull-ups, and which, by the way, David Goggins is a pull-up record, and no one's ever going to break it because he literally tore a bunch of muscles in his arms doing it. So I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Oh, wow.
Because he's one of those people who'll break his feet to run a marathon and not care. So yeah, I don't think there's anything I could do at this point, but like there's a bunch of weird. I like the ones.
It's like, you balanced a thing on a thing for this many minutes or whatever. And you're like,
I like the ones that aren't skill related. It's just like you're patient enough to do it.
Longest live stream ever, 11 days without sleep.
There you go.
That type of stuff. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine just how exhausted and dehydrated and miserable an 11-day live stream could make you? It'd be great.
Are people
I did a
going
48-hour one
with you? No showers?
You did 48 hours?
I did a 48-hour stream, but I will admit, I took a 4-hour of like sleep in the middle and someone else played. I was playing World of Warcraft for 2 days. Never again. Never again.
Yeah, that's the thing about some of those records too. Those personal records, you hit one, you're like, I will never do that again. Not even sure how I got through it the first time. But, but I did. Let us know in the Discord, what silly personal records have you tried to break or have you broken? If you're in the Guinness Book of World Records, we'd love to hear from you. Let's get to the main topic for today. We were going to talk about arm angle changes last week because we saw players that were dropping with lower arm angles, and it was raising our eyebrows. And it turns out, Trevor, you stumbled into some very recent research that might explain why there is a very select group of pitchers that are changing their arm angle in the early part of 2025.
Yeah, this was a really interesting way I kind of stumbled upon this. It was a series of a few events. One was someone on Twitter posted these arm angles of these like prominent opening day starters were all low on opening day. And at first I was like, yeah, sometimes you go up and it's everyone was in warm climes for spring, and then you go somewhere cold and suddenly you're like, I can't grip the ball. I got to figure out, like, so things change and then they usually settle. So I was like, all right, I'll give this a couple weeks and like give him 3 or 4 starts and see if this stuff holds up. And then the next week or so goes by, and there was a segment on MLB Network with Jake Peavy was talking about how Skenes, who was one of the names on that list, one of the highest changes in arm slot, had like all of his pitches had kind of reached the same angle, but like they were all low. So like the point wasn't that they were low, it's just that they had all kind of were the same for every pitch type. And I was like, wait, those look low, and that kind of lines up with everything was low with that other thing. So what's going on here? And then suddenly, randomly on Instagram, I got the algorithm gave me a post from a place called Velocity Academy. I think that's Velo Academy. So shout out to them for making this post. That a study had come out that basically came to the conclusion that there is arm health related to differences in arm angle. For every 10%, it's 5. Every 10% you go higher, or you get above your head, or that direction up, it adds 5 to 10%, depending on how hard you throw, of like stress on the joints of both your shoulder and your elbow. So I was like, this stuff is all connected. It's got to be, because Paul Skenes he just added 2 pitches and he goes and works on this stuff immediately when the season's over. Like, this is the type of stuff he would know about. He also had Wes Johnson as a pitching coach who, like, kind of when you work with him, you start to think of, like, notice these things yourself. And I did it. So did Paul. And so I was like, this is a Wes Johnson. I'm not saying Wes found it, but like a disciple of Wes Johnson would find something like this. And so I was like, okay, what does this sound? What does this look like? So I went and actually read the study. And then there's another study that came out a month before this one about the arm angles, just about generally how arm angle and trunk tilt when you release the ball are correlated, and also correlate with arm. So it was more of a general one with like 500 pitchers in the sample size, which is huge, which makes me feel pretty good about it. And then the next one was 66, the arm angle specifically, and they wanted to find an actual number, like, and how force actually changes based on the actual degrees in the arm angle, and they came to some pretty cool conclusions too. So that led me to believe now we have a few guys, Cole Ragans, Garrett Crochet, and Paul Skenes to top that list. All with differences, consistent differences, like 5-degree or more differences in their release angles on every pitch from 2024 to 2025. So it sounds like something mechanically they've been working on something mechanically that maybe we're not talking about. That is all, maybe it's the arm angle changing on purpose, or maybe it's something else, which I think mostly it is some other mechanical adjustment that is leading to a lower arm angle, which then generates a better chance of staying healthy, which these guys are all guys that have professed publicly that they want to throw 200 innings, all 3 of them. So it's like, you guys are trying to throw more innings and stay healthy, and none of you have reached more than 140 and 100. Well, Ragans did last year, but he wants to get to the 200. But Skenes and Crochet specifically want to throw the most innings in their career this year, and that would all line up. So I think it's interesting to look at, and kind of you can extrapolate, like, is this the thing? Or we're going to see this happen with more and more pitchers in order to help maybe alleviate some of these injury issues.
Yeah, the pursuit of health, I think, is where this is all coming from. And it makes a lot of sense. I think you put the overlays together for Crochet and Skenes. We'll play them if you're watching on YouTube. We'll dump them in the Discord after the show, too, if you want to check them out, if you're just listening wherever you enjoyed the podcast. But the Crochet one, I think, made it really easy for me to see the relationship just between the rest of the trunk and the arm. Like, it was a very pronounced difference, and I grabbed a still of that too. So if you missed it on the way by, you can tell is the old version of Crochet. I mean, there's a lot of tilt down toward that third baseline, and that would potentially cause a lot of stress.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out for me for sure is that this isn't necessarily like, if you draw a line through their arm across their shoulders, I think that you'd probably find that that line hasn't changed as much as the line that goes from their head to their legs. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that they've, and I've had pitching coaches tell me that there's something a little bit innate about that relationship of your release to your shoulders, but that you can change things around that. And I talked to Casey Mize about being much more upright, in his forward move. And you know that there is velo in the, I think it's called like trunk flexion. They have there are a lot of these terms that's really hard sometimes with biomechanics, but the sort of forward move with your,
That's flexion,
with your spine,
yes. And tilt is the side to side.
Right. So there's velo in your forward tilt. And so, you know, that means that your spine is working, and I think that your spine just works better if it's like vertical.
Stacked,
you know?
stacked is what they would say.
Yeah, if it's stacked, because then you think about like trying. Okay, so your body is not stacked, and you're off to the side. Your spine is tilted, right? And think about how that goes into your legs, right? So you're tilted into your legs, and then your body goes whop forward, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that could create hip issues, it could create back issues, it could create oblique issues, and it's probably not as efficient as you could be. Like we are upright walking people. We don't walk with our spines tilted, you know? So like, I feel like people have wanted to, that's people talk about being stacked. People want to be upright through the delivery. And so I think what's happening here is maybe a confluence of things. Maybe some people are like, ooh, these lower arm angles are healthier. Maybe other people are hearing, hey, you want to be stacked, you want to be vertical through, and both of those things can lead maybe to slightly lower arm angles.
If you could pull up the still one once more, there's a couple little things. So like you said, you mentioned the velocity, like the flexion, the forward tilt, that is where you feel the power coming through. And that's where you're like, that's your cue to, I am throwing harder and I'm getting behind the ball the best, when you feel most comfortable in your forward flexion. But a natural inclination of the body is to lean to your glove side, because your arm is the one that's extended, the other one is curled. So that's where you feel like you have space. So when you try to get more forward flexion, sometimes you tilt in that, trying to get that. But what happens then is the balance of your body, like you just said, is not stacked. So you tend to compensate with your front leg. Like right here, you can see Crochet's front knee starts to wobble out to stay underneath him, because if he doesn't, he's going to fall down. So then you lose power there. So everything, once you tilt your top of your body, the rest of your body compensates in order to get the ball there. And then you can also see his wrist. His wrist is bent slightly in a like a supinated position in the White Sox jersey, and then the Red Sox jersey. That is neutral. That is straight through. His wrist is the same angle as his arm, which also creates a little bit less like tension on the outside of your forearm versus the inside. So it's all about, your joints have a range of motion, and you have a neutral position where everything around your joint is almost, I won't say even, but is at rest, the most comfortable it can be. So you don't want to pinch one side or overextend the other. And that looks like basically what the tilt does when you're tall. All that other stuff kind of settles into where it naturally can be within the joints that it is. And you want all the moving pieces to be as close to that neutral position as possible, so that that is the minimal amount of force you are putting on each joint individually in order to get whatever you throw, whatever velo or power you throw. And because Crochet's a hard thrower, and Skenes, who we're going to see in a moment, is like, it is in their best interest to make sure everything is, that's what cleaned up means. That's what everything's in a neutral position in order to be the strongest they can be without creating as few compensations in your mechanics as possible.
Yeah, that wrist position, I didn't notice that when I first looked at that still. You're right. That's a lot of extra tension. You can kind of feel these things if you're just sitting at your desk or listening to the show. You can twist your hands and move different ways. And you get a little extra tension in different parts of your arm as a result of those really seemingly subtle differences. Let's throw the Skenes on here too.
That one's more subtle, I feel like. Did you
get a little
still off of that one?
Yeah, I got the still on this one too. I thought the same thing. I didn't see as much going on here, but that's, probably a good thing that his mechanics weren't as far away from what he's doing right now. That's my assumption anyway.
Yeah, and he hasn't had injury issues. He just hasn't thrown a ton of innings, so he was closer. Crochet has had really bad injury issues. Like his injuries where he was out for a really long time. He just had more place to go, more work to do. But I think that if you put Crochet and Skenes together, like flip one of them so they both are throwing the same arm, they'd be really close, because this year he's very stacked. That looks really, really good. Like Even his wrist is slightly more neutral. Like the other way was he was a little bit tense inside, I think, so he could feel like he was on top of the ball a little bit more. And now it looks like he's more comfortable. Like his arm's just kind of going the way it goes because the rest of his body has done the work.
Now you read the second piece was a little bit dense for me and had a lot of biomechanical stuff in it, and you characterized that as saying that that there is not necessarily an impact on velo by dropping the arm slot.
So the two studies, the one was the more general one that wants to get is basically like, how do we keep guys healthier and what mechanics?
What are the markers of,
it gives you like 11 mechanical things to check on, sequencing, which is all the stuff we just talked about. And then the next one is very specific to the arm angle.
Right.
But again, I think what it is all of the things in the first one, if you're cleaning up, like for example, your trunk tilt, so your arm angle's dropping, but you're still throwing just as hard. Their conclusion is you're not losing velo by your arm angle dropping. By its nature, just because your arm angle looks like he's dropping doesn't mean you're going to lose velocity. And they're like, so don't worry about fixing your trunk. Like your trunk tilt isn't the thing causing all the velocity
or giving you velocity. Yeah,
giving you velocity. Like just leaning over isn't as big of a deal as it may seem. And being taller and feeling a little bit looser is actually better for you health wise, and you will maintain your velocity better as well.
Right. So yeah, that's I think that, one thing is when you're coming up through Little League, they're all like, get on top of the ball, get on top of the ball. So like there's a lot of kids who, and then, the glove, is often the heavy, like kind of heavy for them, because as a parent, you buy them a glove and you're like, oh yeah, I want you to play with that for 3 years, right? So you don't buy the small glove, and they want the bigger glove because they want to be bigger kids, right? You give them a big glove, the glove falls down, right? And then you start that movement where you start pulling that glove in, and then they're telling you to get on top of the ball. So like there are definitely a lot of kids who like the glove falls down and the arm goes up and they're trying to get on top of the ball because that's what their coach is telling them to do. And so that I think led to also our fascination with ride, I think led to a lot of over the top guys trying to get on top of that ball, trying to get ride, trying to convert that spin into vertical movement. And we may be in the midst of a kind of reaction to that where it's like, well, that might not be healthy for you. Plus we're finding out other ways to maximize stuff. What makes it complicated is that these guys just lose velocity. Like people just lose velocity over time. And so Crochet's velocity is down. Skenes' velocity is down, but they were really high velocity guys, and they might have lost anyway. I mean, Crochet is now, this is a second year starting after being a reliever, so that would totally believable that he might lose some velo.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's good for them to lose a little velo and have this new arm slot that's healthier. So the last thing I wanted to add is just that we know all about vertical approach angle now. And so, there is some value to being over the top and having ride because that keeps the vertical approach angle flat. However, you can get flat from a lower slot as well because you're lowering your arm slot, you're lowering the release point. And so the ball can come out now and be flat from a lower release point, which is something that Stuff Plus loves. So if you look at the guys who have raised and lowered their slots, on the left are people who've raised their slots, and there's only really one success story, and that's Jordan Hicks. And I don't think that Jordan Hicks is a success story because he raised his slot. I think it's because his body is different, and he's come in just bigger, hoping to retain his velo over the course of the season better. So maybe his arm slot has something to do with his 30-point change and stuff. But almost everybody else is 0 or minus on this list of guys who've raised their arm slot. And some of them have raised their arm slot to kind of ridiculous proportions. I mean, Mitchell Parker at 61. That is really high. Nick Pivetta was already high, and he made it higher and lost velo.
62 now? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, it's just ridiculous stuff. And I don't know that these changes have been healthy for these guys. On the right, you see guys who've dropped their slots, and for most of them, it's been a good thing. Kikuchi has lost velo and stopped throwing half of his pitches. He's now suddenly a 2-pitch pitcher throwing an 86, 87 mile an hour slider when he used to be throwing an 89, 90 mile an hour slider. So I don't know that his stuff loss is because of the arm angle difference, but you see a lot more success stories. I mean, Cole Ragans, despite the velo not being up, his stuff plus is up. Garrett Crochet, velo down, stuff plus up. Paul Skenes, velo down, stuff plus up. And Max Myers, not necessarily a velo change. That's just, there's a pitch mix thing there. He's added pitches, so it's not just his fastball's got. Maybe I should have just done fastball stuff change or whatever, but in any case, the outcomes here for guys who have lowered their slot seem better as a group.
There's one other really interesting theme I'm seeing on that right list. Garrett Crochet injury, a lot long-term injury problems. Cole Ragans had some injury problems before he went to the Royals. Kikuchi, Ragans, injury problems. Luzardo, injury problems. DeGrom, injury problems. And Skenes never thrown more than 130 innings, and he's just ahead of stuff. I wouldn't put it past me that he just is like, I'm getting ahead of this. So like, and Max Meyer got hurt last year. So it's like, all of these guys, this might be things that they're working on because someone's like, hey man, this might help you stay healthy.
I mean, you could say, oh, well, they're hurt again, and so they're just trying to find a slot that works. I would say they were hurt before, and they're coming out of this now with the rehab specialists. Yeah. And I think the rehab specialists in some teams are the guys that know biomechanics the best, right? And they have an opportunity. A lot of times you're coming out of rehab, it's like, isn't that the time to like really clean up your mechanics, right? Isn't that when everyone's like, you're meeting with the biomechanist, you're reading with the rehab specialist, and you have the time now. You have 6 months or whatever it is to make it right, And if you come out with a different arm slot, it was on purpose. Like that's not feeling around in the dark. That's like, hey, we want you to look like this coming out of this injury, right? Isn't that like you spend that time on the comeback trying to be as clean as you can coming back?
Yeah, you hear that in every single interview right after a guy's told he needs Tommy John. He's like, well, I'm going to take this time. I'm going to clean up my mechanics. That's true. Like you get to go do all these weird little drills, and you're in the pool doing like resisted like little dumbbells and stuff. You could do all your little motions with like no resistance because you don't have to pitch soon. So that is when you do it. And that's when a lot of the stuff takes, because you also can kind of get rid of all that stuff, because sometimes it's hard to make that when you're healthy because you're like, it's working. I know eventually this might lead to an injury, but I'm not injured right now. And then sometimes just having to take a huge step back and not be on the field, you can like, the longer you're out, the longer it is easier for your brain to reset and not like worry so much about all the stuff you did and were successful about. Like, you can't really remember. Your muscle memory goes away a little bit, so you're more open to changing things if you need to.
Yeah, it's a reprogramming, that's part of the rehabbing, physically reprogramming your biomechanical markers along the way, which with proper specialists, which before you were hurt, how many times did you have opportunities to work with people who knew that stuff inside and out? Like, it's more common now than it used to be. But for a lot of guys, if they'd never really been hurt before, they just cruised through and didn't want to mess with stuff because, as you were saying, it was working. Like, why rebuild something if it's actually working and getting good results?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You hear that a lot.
Oh, I bet that's that's like painted on some walls somewhere. Why wouldn't it be? The other thing I was going to ask you, is like looking at the chart for the stuff changes too. I mean, even DeGrom, okay, so he's down 2 points.
But he was kind of reliever-ish, last year. He wasn't.
Yeah, I came back in tiny sample. Like, at a certain point, you could give up, especially, it's kind of like the velocity conversation too. If you are phenomenal in stuff, you can give up a little bit of stuff in pursuit of health, and it's probably a fair trade-off, right? So a slight decline like that means very little. I think we were talking in the meeting yesterday, Mason Miller is down in velo a little bit. Who cares? Like, he's got room to spare. He's at the top of the chart for velocity. So I think it's a little bit like that, where you're okay making these trade-offs if you're getting something back in the long run.
Yeah, and we're putting, there's more and more of us talking about in the media, talking about injuries and health, and we're more and more of us are putting Glenn Feisig's, study out there about how close you live to your maximum being, stressful on your arm. That's going to filter through to the coaches. That's going to be something that you may filter past coaches. Your coach may be, at Tread or Drive Line, maybe like, yeah, throw as hard as you can, like make as much money as you can, make us look good, right? But like the player is on Instagram or reading on The Athletic or whatever and might say, oh, hey, that's interesting. I'm probably still pretty good at 99. I don't necessarily have to sit 101, especially if it means I'm out there longer. So I think there's something to that. I also throw that back up on there real quick because you see that Emerson Hancock is the big minus there, going down to 22 degree arm angle. I think there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I also want to point out that I wouldn't be surprised if there's sort of an ideal arm angle for health and velo, and that it's not necessarily just dropping down is good. I wanted to point out that I'd done a search for arm slots or just release points under 4 feet. And the hardest anyone's ever thrown for more than 5 pitches under 4 feet was John Schreiber, or is John Schreiber, with 92.7 miles an hour on the fastball. And the hardest anyone's done it for a sustained amount of time is Tim Hill. Tim Hill is the hardest throwing sidearmer in history. 91.2.
Do you think he knows that?
I'm going to tell him next time I see him.
I'm hanging my hat on that, dude. If I'm Tim Hill.
Yeah, but he knows that. I'm going to guess he does.
I'm going to, I'll tell him about that. But I think that of course, the mechanics start changing. There's like a sort of 180 degree, out of your elbow, right out of your shoulder thing, that when you start going under it, I think you start probably stressing other things. And having talked to Darren O'Day and Tyler Rogers and a lot of these submariners about this, they say that you start stressing your hip labrum because you're using your hip as a big, it's almost like in softball, you're using your hip as the big leverage point as opposed to your shoulder, the overarm shoulder. So ends up being labrum tears in the hip. Darren O'Day had, I think 2 hip labrum surgeries. And Tyler Rogers was like, I know, I do yoga every day.
Well, and I think you were saying, Trevor, at our meeting yesterday, that a lot of softball pitchers have the leg injuries instead.
Yeah.
It's lower half injuries instead of upper half injuries with the underhand delivery.
Yes, it is because that's where they generate their power mostly. It's basically their arm is not generated. It's just you're trying to get your hand speed up, but like their elbows aren't doing anything. Their elbows are going along for the ride. It's like shoulders. Sometimes they can get some extension like back a little bit if they go behind their body, but it's hard to throw strikes like that. So most of them are pretty neutral. My sister played softball in college for 4 years and had was a pitcher, and then went to the outfield because she tore both her ACLs. So she thinks it was like,
wow.
She thinks it was where she got these both running like for balls, but she thinks she wore them down
fatigue
pitching.
from pitching. Yeah.
Yeah. She thought that it was like fraying and stress over time because you block so hard, and you like jump off the mound and you slide kind of like, and you jam your foot into the ground. Like that's where a lot of that comes from, but they don't have arm issues like at all. Like no softball players. You're not going to find, there might be, I don't know if there's any pitcher Tommy Johns. There might be, if there's probably some softball position players because you're throwing a big ball like this overhand, which is tough sometimes, but it's just not an issue. Hips and knees are definitely a bigger issue.
This is not on topic necessarily, but I just learned this today. Michael, is it not Michael? Trueblood. What's his first name?
Matt Trueblood, isn't it?
Huh?
Yeah, but Matt Trueblood?
Yeah, Matt Trueblood wrote a piece about Pablo Lopez being hurt and his hamstring, and it's his push-off hamstring. And he said that that's actually good news because people who've had push-off hamstrings have returned to duty quicker. And then another sort of doctor online was like, the blocking leg absorbs more stress. Like the blocking is harder on your hamstring than pushing off, which is not something that I would have guessed, before, studying pitching. But blocking is a huge part of velo, even for overhand pitchers. But I could imagine it's like the thing for underhand pitchers, because if you just mimic like women's softball players throwing it, it's like this pelvic shove. Like it's like this it's like a real blocking thing where you're just like trying to use your whole pelvis and legs to stop everything, and your arm comes through. So it looks pretty aggressive on the legs.
It's also harder for me to throw that way. I can't do it. It's not natural,
skill, man.
It's a real. I saw there's a friend of mine played in an adult men's fast pitch softball league, and I looked at him like I can't contribute anything. I don't think I can hit that. I certainly can't pitch that way. So I'm useless out there. There's nothing I could do.
Do you know about the famous men's traveling softball team? Kings in their, I think it's Kings in their court. It's three guys, and they would go play softball teams, like 3 guys on 9, and just destroy them.
Yeah,
wow.
Because their pitcher could throw like low 80s underhand and just unhittable. Like he'd throw no hitters every single time, and then they would just all hit homers.
Barry had a hard time hitting Jenny Finch, right? That was that.
Yeah, Jenny Finch was really good, and she threw hard. She was not even close to the hardest thrower on her team. Like she was like the 3rd or 4th hardest. She threw like 70, which is hard, but she was playing with some girls who played through mid 70s. I think the hardest pitch ever now is 78 too. A girl from Tennessee just did it.
Wow.
Kylen something. She just broke it and then she checked the thing and gave a nod. And I was like, that is sick. But it's the hardest collegiate softball pitch ever thrown. She just did it like literally a week or 2 ago.
Wow. That's a Ben Joyce move.
Oh yeah. That's exactly what it looked like.
Love that look back at the radar gun. Let's get to another topic here. We started to wonder yesterday, is MacKenzie Gore, is he making the leap? We talked about it a little bit on opening day because he had that great start against the Phillies, just pitched really well against the Dodgers in his 3rd start of the season, 7 Ks and 6 innings against that lineup. Very impressive. We've seen 3 starts now this season. What is reliably different or new in the arsenal and approach for MacKenzie Gore?
One thing that stands out for me is that the curve actually finally has the shape that he's been looking for all these years. He's been talking to me about how difficult it has been for him to get any glove side movement on his curveball, which I guess he's so kind of north-south and over the top, considering our discussion of arm angle, that it is hard for him to get any wiggle on the curveball. But this year he's getting 3.8 inches of glove side movement. I mean, he got arm side movement on it in 2023. So the difference between 2025 and 2023 on the curveball is 5 inches of in that direction. And I just think that it's what he needed. I mean, he needed, if you look at his pitch type chart, everything is north-south. So to get more wiggle on that curveball, that becomes suddenly the thing that moves the most in that direction in his arsenal. And I think it just sort of broadens his pitches and makes batters have to think about more things. They can't just see everything vertically.
Yeah, bump that slider usage up a little bit too. That's the other thing that just sort of on a pretty basic level I noticed was a different thing in his approach. But yeah, different shape on the curveball. You're right. You can really see it from that savant player card view that we had on the screen on YouTube. What's the ceiling here? One thing we talked about in the offseason, Trevor, was that the Nats defense was horrible last year. They did make some changes, especially at third base. Even just Paul DeYoung out there ends up being a pretty big upgrade because they ran out Nick Senzel a lot. I think he was something like a -7 or a -8 by outs above average last year. And it was other spots around the diamond too that were well below average. We talked about CJ Abrams' defense. That needs to get better. But where do you see this going from here? Is this a guy we're talking about as a top 25 starting pitcher by season's end?
I think it's absolutely possible. I think that was a conversation that's happening a lot when he's with the Padres. Like, they're just like, this guy could be the front of the rotation. He needs to improve his command. That was a big thing for me. He was just kind of all over the place, but like the stuff was very clearly there. Classic I don't know. He's got a lot, at least in terms of mechanically and just how he looks when he's pitching. Like a lot of parallels with Ragans. I mean, I know they have completely different arsenals and how they approach them. But one thing you need to know about lefties, specifically, especially guys with riding fastballs that like to throw up and throw hard, is they struggle to get. It's all about how well they get righties out, because most hitters are righties and they have to face mostly those. And if they can get those guys out consistently, that is what's going to bring them the most success. And the way you do that is by using the inner half of the plate. Your natural default is up and in with the fastball, and you just stay. That's where you get strike one, as opposed to just throwing guys away. One thing he has done, I think, and I noticed it in the first start of his and just kind of watched him last year, that lack of command meant he was kind of stuck in this middle corridor of the plate, which made him not as effective at, like, righties didn't feel pressured by his stuff inside. Adding a little bit of horizontal movement on both of his breaking balls has been really helpful. You showed that chart just before. He had a bunch of curveballs that were backing up, technically going like straight down or the other way, and like nothing in there shows you that a righty. This is last year. Shows you that a righty needs to worry about that inner half of the plate. And for lefties that throw hard, they have to dominate the inner side of the plate, or find a way to do it. Manai has done it in a completely different way. David Peterson's another guy who has completely decided to do that and is getting better results because of it, just because he's like, when in doubt, I'm just going to throw a hard sinker in to a righty, and I know I can get it in there, and if I miss in, I miss in. Gore looks like he is commanding that side of the plate much better. That combined with the movement creates the confidence. So the lefties have never been an issue. You can get everything away from them, but it's just about commanding the inner half of the plate. So whenever you see a lefty that throws like this guy, Luzardo's another guy that more recently, because he throws sinkers and they sink really hard, it's hard for you to command the inside of the plate. So far, so good this year. He's commanding the inside of the plate and throws 96. Like, you just have to get it in there for strike one. And once you do that, like, it doesn't matter how your other stuff moves, you're going to have some success. But Gore's potentially, I think, I don't think the 13 strikeout game was a fluke. I think he's a guy who, if he's rolling, something could click and he could be a double digits regularly strikeout type guy.
Yeah, so maybe a guy that's even among the National League or league leaders in strikeouts this year, as long as the volume's there. I mean, at 181 strikeouts last year and 166 in the third innings, he's definitely shown that sort of skill. But if he's getting deeper into games more consistently and commanding everything better, then there's really like no limit to what he could do.
Yeah, I think also with this curveball movement, it's easier for him to back foot the curveball, lefty on righty. And if you look at his chart, that's exactly what he's doing. And that creates a sort of vertical pathway for him where he's got up and in with the four seam, in on their hands with the slider and back foot with the curveball, and he can play off those three things. So he's also been a guy that like hasn't had great command in the past, but it hasn't been terrible. And so just any increase, I mean, it was 97 location plus with San Diego, 97 first year in Washington, 101 last year. Right now, 124. That's when he's rolling. But like, if it's just going to be like a 105 or something this year, he could easily have his career year. Plus, he's 26. It's like it's the perfect time for all this. And you go from 70 innings to 136 innings to 166. Like he's just adding, and this is his year. I think this is his year. It's just all coming together. And one last point, this did come up on Discord. If you're looking at past years, Stuff Plus or Location Plus, that's all this same model. When we update the model, we retroactively clean everything up. So you're looking at the same model. So you're not looking at last year's model and trying to compare Gore to last year's model. It's all one model.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we ran a Location Plus Risers leaderboard if MacKenzie Gore was at or near the top of that. That's a big step forward. That goes a long way, in addition to changing some of the movement profiles on those pitches as well. One more segment to get to. It is the game that is very slowly sweeping the nation. It is Name That Dude. Season series now favors
I
Trevor.
did no prep work. I didn't search. I'm gonna bring up a leaderboard of mid-90s hitters.
It's probably not going to help you, but you can try. Any names you want to try and put on the screen just to jog your memory, absolutely go for it. Trevor has a 2-0 series lead so far in the 2025 installment of names.
Only going to get bigger.
Our simple game works this way. I give a series of clues. After each clue, Trevor and Eno can have one guess as to who the mystery player is today. First player to name the player gets the point. It's that easy. You can play along with us. Usually, our legendary producer, B. Smith, is winning in the background, trying not to spoil the game. I could see his video. I could see him just like shaking his fist like he knows the answer, and nobody on screen actually can see or hear him. So it's pretty fun for me just going inside the game a little bit there. So here we go. First clue for today. Name that dude. I was born May 3rd, 1986 in LaGrange, Texas.
Nolan Ryan.
How'd you not get out of there? Nolan Ryan was born in 1986.
1986. No,
So I know someone from LaGrange, but he's from LaGrange, Georgia, not Texas. And that's about the right age, but like this guy's a minor league guy. So
86.
Didn't think about the possibility of multiple LaGranges, but yeah, sure, of course, why not? A lot of repeat cities. I was drafted 7th overall in the 2004 draft. Eyes got real big just on that clue.
Got to the big leagues.
Any guesses?
Around 2010.
No guesses.
high school guy.
Yeah, move on to the next clue. I made my major league debut in 2007 with the Reds and pitched in my final game in 2020 with the Twins. I feel like you guys are honing in on this even though you're not guessing.
Tyler Clippard.
That's not Tyler Clippard.
If he was on my team, I should know it.
This is a very reserved version.
You said
of
the Reds took him?
Yeah. Debuted with the Reds, 2007. Final game with the Twins, 2020.
It's not Matty Belial, is it?
No.
He's from Texas, but he's a little older than that. I think he's...
All right, we'll move on to our next clue. I threw 2 no-hitters, including one on July 2nd.
Homer Bailey!
Homer Bailey! Yes.
Oh.
Homer Bailey. Yes, a somewhat recent 2 no-hitters guy. I was at that second no-hitter. That was the connection. I was actually going to use this one for the Bear Bottle shows because of the connection to the Giants to give away a hat, our show was really long, so we didn't do one that day.
He's the Nolan Ryan of the 2010 Reds.
I think Homer Bailey was on a cover of the Baseball America Prospect Handbook at one point, too.
Gosh.
He's a big-time prospect. People were really excited about Homer Bailey.
Last time I saw that guy, I think he got released a couple weeks before the end of the season in 2020, and he was gone. I don't think anyone saw him leave. I think he teleported. We were like, how did he get out of here so fast? And he just disappeared. So, and no one's seen him since. So
I haven't heard or
Homer.
seen
Make sure he's okay for me, please. Thank you.
I think it's funny. I don't know if this ever happens to you guys. I was on like LinkedIn or something yesterday, and I saw a post from Matt Joyce, and I was like, "What? Huh? Algorithm? Why is the algorithm serving me a post from Matt Joyce? What's Matt Joyce doing?" And it's like, this is just, the world is so weird. You just have like name that dude just appears sometimes for you in your life in places you wouldn't expect it to. Homer Bailey, though, the 2 no-hitters, probably the individual highlight of the career. What do you think his career WAR ended up being? 14 seasons in the big leagues. We'll go B WAR because that's what I've got open right now.
20.
18.2.
6.1. I feel like he had a
Less
much
than
better
Jesse
career than
Chavez.
That's right. That's a very surprising thing for me. I just have,
it's very different on Fangraphs.
Yeah, what's
we
it on
were much
Fangraphs?
closer on Fangraphs. 16.5.
That's where that would have been the same kind of number I would have guessed. So
That's a huge discrepancy right there.
Yeah, and
not to be confused with the biggest discrepancy, Ryan Domit.
Domit's the biggest.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah,
he has 8 real WAR, BREF, and -8 on Fangraphs because he's so bad defensively.
Yeah, they don't have framing in VWAR.
He's literally like the worst catcher defensively of all time.
Has anybody ever talked to him about that?
I think he knows.
But
Homer Bailey
does he laugh about it, or is he kind of?
Oh, he would definitely laugh about it. No,
okay,
no,
good. I just
Doman's a make fun of himself type of guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Homer Bailey. I think there's got to be underlying, injury that really changed things there. I'm just looking at it like he has this thing where, and I think that like betting on a young starters is really hard because he had velo, he had pedigree, he was supposed to do it right from the beginning, and the first year of his career, like 45 innings, 5.76 ERA for Homer Bailey in 2007, then 8 ERA in 2008 in 36 innings. It's just really hard to put all the pieces together. In 2009, he throws 113 with a 4.53, and then he has 3 years of a row where he's like pretty good, but like Cincinnati's a tough place to pitch, and he's getting it together. Then 2012 to 2014, he actually is good. Like he has a ERA around 3.6. He's a 2 to 4 win pitcher. He's a 4-win pitcher in 2013 by Fangraphs. Like he has a really good stretch there, and he's sitting 93 to 95, and then he never gets that velo back. And in 2015, he's down to 92.8, and he misses a lot of time. I would assume that he was cut short by injury, which sucks because it just takes a while to get going as a starter. He finally did return on the promise, and people won't remember that because they'll remember how the beginning and the end went.
Yeah, and I think people get stuck on the last 5 or 6 years where you're trying to work through those injuries, trying to get back, and it's not happening and it's not working. And I think that's why in my head I was so surprised when I saw that WAR number. I was like, he was good. Like he had it. It clicked. He was. It took a little longer than people thought, but it was there.
Yeah.
Brian has some constructive criticism for me.
Yeah. Legendary producer Brian Smith says Ito needs to regroup and evaluate his name that dude plan. I mean, you are down 3-0 in the season series, but we got
it won't get any better. I tell you, I freeze up. I mean, the Nolan Ryan thing is just totally, I freeze up. Like I heard LaGrange, Texas, and I just said a word,
Right. Yeah. You dismissed born in 86. 86 you heard LaGrange, Texas.
It's not even, I am not clutch. Like you start talking trivia and I torpedo myself. My heartbeat goes up and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to screw this up again. And I did, but I did want to point out one fun thing about one of our other co-host, Jed Lowry. He has, I'm guesstimating here a little bit, but it looks like he has 16 of his 20 career WAR with Oakland. So
a little bit of the Jesse Chavez effect.
Little bit of a Jesse Chavez story. 3 stints with Oakland. Always played his best ball with Oakland, and always went somewhere else on a deal, and then came back afterwards.
We'll have to dig into that on Wednesday. But yeah, a lot of ground covered today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. We're all on Blue Sky. You can find Trevor. I am Trevor May @bsky.social. Eno's enosaris.bsky.social. I am dvr.bsky.social. I don't know if our producer Brian Smith's on there yet. Got to find that out. We'll throw his handle out there.
Trying to gram some more.
He actually is. You're on Instagram now too?
Oh man, I've always been there. I just, I'm trying to. You have to remember to take pictures.
I take them. I just don't like posting them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the way it is. But thanks to our legendary producer, Brian Smith, for putting this episode together. That is going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Friday.
Thanks for listening.